Hello everyone, we're making a large bedroom unit. Now, in the last video we fitted the doors, we adjusted the hinges to get everything level, square and parallel with each other. Now all the doors are in and looking good, our attention falls back to the drawers. To be more specific, the drawer fronts. There are 9 drawer fronts required and they need to match the door, so they would be built using the raised panel method, the same as the doors, but obviously just a little bit smaller. Next, the front edges of the doors and the drawer fronts need to be rounded with the router, and then the handles are fitted. There's lots to do, so we best get on with it. Our drawer fronts need to be 766mm wide. Laying against the wall just here are a few lengths of the 105mm wide MDF strip which is left over from the cupboard and the wardrobe door build. I cut 9 lengths 766mm long using the miter saw. Back at the workbench I used a fixture I'd built and the track saw to cut the 9 lengths of 105mm wide MDF into 18 lengths of 50mm wide MDF. Once these lengths are finished, I cut a little more to give me material for the small side edges of the drawer fronts. 12mm MDF sheet is next to cut. We need this for the raised panels in the centre of the drawer fronts. Onto the router. I machined the sides and ends of the frame and then all the edges of the raised panels. In part 3 of this video series I showed how to make the raised panel cupboard doors in some detail. The drawer fronts are manufactured in the same way, so I won't repeat that here. I used the style and rail cutter to machine the frames and the panel raising cutter to shape the panels. All the parts are glued together in the same way as the raised panel doors were. The first 3 door panels are assembled. The next set of drawers, there's 6 left, the middles and the bottoms are over here waiting for assembly. So we have the rails here, we have the stiles here, and the panels are over here on the router. I haven't machined these yet, that's going to happen once I fit the first 3 on, just to make sure everything's okay. This is the top left hand drawer, and this is the drawer face, which is going to go onto the front of this drawer. Now the way that I'm going to put it on, the handle will be fitting in the centre, which this is the back plate for that handle. So there's going to be 2 screws that go through the centre that will hold that on, or hold that in the centre. And what I intend to do at the moment is drill through from the rear for a screw down the bottom of this corner. Do the same here with the bottom of that corner, and to hold it close to the top, I'm going to put a pocket hole screw in here and then another one on the other side. So each fascia should be held on with a screw in each of the corners and then 2 screws in the centre through the handle. Now on the back of these fascias, like all the raised panel doors, there is a space of 4mm between the rear of the raised panel and the frame. Now that's going to go against here. What I don't want to do is tighten this up with a gap there. So I needed a 4mm shim, flat shims on the back and glued in position. So now I can drill through the front. I've started making the marking out so I know where to drill the holes. How the front panels are assembled to the drawers will be shown a little later. The first drawer front is in place. Ta-da! Just there, I'll point it out in case you can't see it. Let me lean forward, grab the drawer. Now I can open the drawer with the handle and then push it back closed again. Look at that, it works wonderfully well. So that's number 1 complete. Number 2 and 3 I'm working on now, and they're to come up and be screwed in place. In fact, that's the first thing with a handle on it, because all the cupboard doors haven't got any handles. Look, there's a whole wall of MDF wood. Well, look at that. All 9 drawer fronts complete, and they're looking good if I say so myself. Now it's time to look at the doors. We need to round their edges and then fit the handles. All the cupboard doors, the wardrobe doors and the drawer fronts are complete and on the unit in the bedroom. I've taken one of the doors off, which I have here. Now this is the left-hand door. You can see you have the hinges on this side. There'll be another door which goes on here. Now what I want to do is soften these edges. So what I'm going to do is run a router along these three sides with the radius cutter in. The one that I've got in my drawer is a 1/2 inch radius cutter. That's already set up, and I've tried it on a couple of bits of scrap, and that seemed to be okay. Then I tried it on these two panels. Now these panels I've made so we can experiment with them. So when we decide to use stain or paint, we can try it on here first and then see how it goes. Well, I'll run the radius cutter around these edges. That edge is, that pretends to be where the two cupboards are coming together, because these are acting as cupboard doors at the moment. So you can see I've run the radius cutter around here. We've got a sharp edge there, and then it runs along this side. So 1, 2, those three sides are done. Now on this one, I've done the same, but instead of leaving this sharp edge, I've put the router through this edge as well, which makes it round on the top and the bottom as well, those corners there. And I think that makes it look nicer. So that's the way that I'm going to go. So we're going to route the three sides on the outside of the cupboard. The sides which mate together will stay unmachined, but just sanded over. And that's what I'm about to do with this door here, so fingers crossed. With the machining complete, I use a Mirka hand sander and sand the three edges round the corners, then sand back the flat sides of the frame and the centre of the raised panel. Right, fitting the handles to the high cupboard doors. I've marked out where the holes are going to be. So 45mm down from this edge. The centre of the handle is 100mm from here. And the two securing holes are these, as it happens, are imperial. So it's 1.5 inches from the centre, or 3 inches pitch, which is 87mm, I think, if I remember. So yeah, just mark out where the holes are going to go. And thus, drill through with a 2mm hole, keeping it nice and square. And you see why we need a pilot in a moment. 1, 2. Now the reason we've gone through with a pilot is to mark the hole on both sides, and the reason we need to know that is we have to counterbore each side. This side needs counterboring because the pommel that holds the handle has got this little lip on here, and that sticks out of the rear of the handle, as you can see. So we need clearance in here to miss it. And we need to counterbore it by about 3mm. About there. And we do the same here. And there. And now we have to counterbore the rear for the nut. Here we are on the other side. You can see the holes. And this is why those little holes are there. And now I can find the same centre with the Forstner bit and drill a counterbore or a flat bottom hole about 3mm deep. I want them counterbored on this side, so there's the nut will go sub flush to this surface. So I think that looks better. Now, once we have counterbored those holes, we can now drill through all the way with a 4mm drill. Drill it through from the front. One, 2, and now just deburr those holes. Put the Forstner bit back in the hole. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, let's see how it fits. So the handle is now in place. 2 pieces of studding are fitting into the holes, he says. Get in there. Like that. So that's the handle on, and now I have 2 nuts which go on the back. At the moment the studding is going to be too long. I'm not, because this is the first drawer, I'm not sure how much studding we're going to need. So I'm just going to use this long one, or these long ones. And I can see how much I've got to cut off, and I'll come back and do that a little later. So that is the first handle fitted on a door. I'll do the other one, then we'll see what it looks like in the cabinet. The first 2 cupboard handles are in place, just there. Let's get a little bit closer, and you can see how the rounded edges work. So you can see this, these cupboard doors, sorry, these are wardrobe doors, that's a cupboard door. How they are all very sharp edges, and they only have to be out by 1 millimetre or so, and they stand out. By putting these rounded edges on, I think it makes it a little bit softer, and it won't look so out of place if one is out of place by, say, 1 millimetre or so. 1 down, 7 to go, or 7 sets. All the cupboard doors, all the wardrobe doors, all have their handles, all have been machined, and all have been sanded down. Next thing to do is back on those 9 drawers down the bottom here. All the drawer fronts are on, but I haven't yet machined the outside. So that's the next job. Here we are back on the router bench. I fitted the 1/2" radius cutter we used around the forward edges of the cupboard and the wardrobe doors. It's now the turn of the 9 drawer fronts. As you can see, I've removed all 9 drawer fronts, and they're back down in the conservatory. I've just machined all their edges. I've been on the router, and these have all been, as you can see, taken over 1/2" radius. Coming to a sharp edge. I'm just about to put them through the router again, where I'm going to machine all the corners with the same router bit. There are 9 drawer fronts to machine. 4 corners per drawer front. That's 4 9s, 36 corners to machine. That shouldn't take too long. All the corners have now been rounded off. Next job is to sand everything. I start the sanding process with the Festool Rotex RO90. The 4 joints in the frame need to be sanded on the front and the rear surfaces of the drawer fronts to make them all perfectly flat. All the drawer fronts have now been sanded with the Rotex sander. All the joints are now nice and flat, and it's time to sand the outside edges and the corners. I'll be using the Mirka sander again. That still has the same abrasive sheet in, the 120. In fact, I'm going to change that. It's getting a bit worn now. It's time to come off, so we'll whip that off. I'll keep this to one side because that'll be handy for sanding the sealer back later on. And here's the brand new Abranet abrasive sheet. So that will go on the Mirka sander, and then we can get to sanding these. The corners have been machined on the router. You can see the shape that's left. All that needs rounding off, as well as all the rough parts taken off from the edge of the drawer front. Anyway, I better get to it. I get straight into corner sanding. The Mirka sander is light and manoeuvrable. It's ideal for rounding the corners and makes an excellent job. Next to the round edges and then the flat surfaces. This first drawer front is finished. The Mirka sander has done its job, and you can see the edge is, or the corner here, is really nice and smooth now. In fact, it's smooth all over. I took special care with the top of the drawer, which is along here, because this is the edge which you would put your hand on as the drawer opens. I wanted that to be nice and smooth, and it is. It's also going to get most of the wear when you're putting clothes in and out the drawers. So the larger the radius on that particular edge, the better. It will make the sealer a little bit thicker. Right, let's get on with the other 8. All 9 drawer fronts are now ready to go back on the drawers. Here you see me assembling a drawer front to a bottom drawer. First fixings from the handle. 2 pieces of studding or all thread are pushed through the drawer front and the front of the drawer. 2 nuts retain the handles on the inside of the drawer. The 2 fixings at the top of the drawer are pocket hole screws. They screw into the top of the drawer front frame. The bottom drawer front has to be low to overlap the cabinet frame under the drawer. Because of this, I couldn't use fixings through the inside of the drawer, as the lower edge of the drawer front frame was now too low to screw into. Instead, I had to fit pocket hole screws through the side at the lower edges of the drawer. These screwed into the side frames of the drawer front. The middle and the top drawer fronts fit in a similar fashion. The handle is assembled first. Top fixings are pocket hole screws through the top inside of the drawer. The 2 lower fixings are through the front of the drawer front from the inside in the 2 bottom corners. The top drawer is assembled exactly the same as the middle drawer. As it happens, one you see here contains, among other things, my wife's underwear. I'm told, if there's one flash of a pair of my knickers, you'll be sleeping in the workshop. That's why this clip is taken from the other side of the room. My wife can be very scary sometimes. The unit is looking very close to being finished. All the doors are now sanded back. The corners are sanded. All the handles are in position. And everything is sparkly. Well, our bedroom unit is looking pretty good. Well, at least I think so. In the next video, what we're going to be doing is looking at the painting of the doors. I'll show you the design that we came up with, how we wrote the design or drew the design down on the doors, how we painted it, and then how it turned out. All that and more in the next thrilling episode. Could you do something like this? Of course you can. And with that, this video is at an end. Take care, everybody. I'll see you next time. Could you do something like this? Of course you can.